As anti-Semitism reaches new heights in the heated election race for the next mayor of New York City, Israel faces the pressing issue of how to deal with the renewed threats and attacks coming from the Houthis of Yemen, a jihadist terrorist group backed by Iran. I'm Stephen Briggs, and this is Israel Matters. To hear his take on the biggest news stories from Israel this week, we'll soon be joined live from an IDF reservist officer. He's in the special unit of the Yahalom Combat Engineering Corps, and they have been fighting on the front lines of the battlefield of Gaza and the battleground of the media. He's going to be with us for a few minutes. We'll be hearing from him and all that has been taking place. But first, let's take a look at what I mentioned before the intro, what is going on in New York, the home to 1.3 million Jewish people. The ADL reports that the results of the New York City 2025 mayoral primary drew significant, extreme, and hateful rhetoric across the political and ideological spectrum this week. New York State Rep. Zohran Mamdani's apparent win in the Democratic primary generated a wide range of troubling responses. While the primary results will not be officially certified until at least next month, after mail-in ballots and ranked choice votes are counted, these early reactions raise concerns about the hateful rhetoric that is likely to only increase as the general election approaches this fall, with Mamdani as the presumptive Democratic nominee. Unfortunately, it should come as no surprise that anti-Zionists have felt empowered and energized by Mamdani's win. The candidate himself has endorsed the boycott, divestment and sanctions, the BDS movement, and has defended anti-Israel rhetoric, including calls to globalize the Intifada, a slogan generally understood as a call for indiscriminate violence against Israel and potentially against Jews and Jewish institutions worldwide, despite the damage it wreaks on the Jewish community. This is a reminder of how important it is for Christians, God-fearing men and women with strong biblical values to step forward into public service and running for public offices. Well, in other news, the IDF has arrested an Iranian terror cell in Syria and has confiscated weapons in southern Syria. Trump has said that Israel has accepted terms for a 60-day ceasefire, and Netanyahu will meet with Trump in Washington next week. In European news, Pahlavi, the son of the former Shah, announced that the European Summit on the Future of Iran's Roadmap for Democratic Transition. There are calls in Europe for a transition to a democracy, a secular democracy. 130 agencies have called for the removal of GHF as an aid conduit into Gaza, and the former hostage, Liri Ulbag, is entering back into the IDF after being a hostage for 477 days. Lots of things happening. Bob Villan at Glastonbury last week, he shouted, "Death, death to the IDF" at Glastonbury. Well, this show is going to be all about life to the IDF, and I'm going to be joined shortly by my good friend Chaim Malespin. He is a bit of his bio. He's an Israeli Zionist, and he has immigrated to Israel from the US about 25 years ago. He is a Sergeant Major in the IDF Combat Engineering Corps and serves in a special Yahalom Elite Commando unit. Chaim runs the Aliyah Return Center, which is an Israel-based registered non-profit organization that usually focuses on supporting new Jewish immigrants from the diaspora, which means the Jews around the world, with absorption into Israel. Chaim and his wife, Deanna, live in Israel with their 3 children. He's a friend, a brother in the Lord, a man of vision and purpose, and a hero of Israel. We're honored to have him with us live today from the beautiful Sea of Galilee and the surrounding area where he resides. Welcome, Chaim. Can you hear me?
I can. If you need, I can put headphones. You can hear me okay?
Fantastic. Yeah, doing well. It's great to see you, my friend. This time not in your uniform, but I know you've always got your gun close by, and I see it to your left-hand side. And we really do appreciate you joining us for this time. I want to maximize our time with you. I know there's a lot of people that will be very interested in what's going on. But let's dive straight in and ask you, what is it that's going on in Israel today? What's happening on the ground, and what are the Israelis facing? How are they feeling about the circumstances they currently face?
Okay, indeed. I know that people like to look at things like war or peace. Is the light on? Is the light off? What's going on? I'd say it's not so clear because, sure, we just had a giant war with the Hezbollah, which are occupying illegally southern Lebanon and taking over the country illegally and going against the UN and occupying there and setting up all these rocket launchers and all these tunnels, which I've been in there to dismantle. So are they done? Is that over? Well, they've been pushed back for a while, but it's not done. They're rearming, restocking, and they haven't fully changed their ways. Okay, we look to Gaza. I'm there all the time. I was actually supposed to be there now. I'm here on a very short break. I just get these days here and there off, and then I'm back at it. I've been in the Army, a Sergeant Major, now for 20 years, but just now called up for reserve duty, continual reserve duty, continual deployment for 635 days, I think it is, something like that, consecutive deployment. And so I've been in Gaza a lot, all throughout Gaza, top to bottom. We can talk more about that. But are they done? Have they left, surrendered, or else? It looks like or else because every single deal that's brought by Steve Witkoff from the United States, by Israel, by anyone, they reject it and they just say, no, we want you guys out and we want to remain in power. We're like, well, that's not on the table. That's not one of them. So you look at this thing and it's like they're shooting missiles. And then the Houthis. Okay, so the Houthis have been beaten down numerous times by the United States, by Israel. Some heavy bombing, but have they surrendered? Are they gonna leave? Because the Houthis aren't the Yemenite government or the Yemenite people. Are they gonna leave their terror positions and leave, surrender, or else? It looks like or else because now they're saying they want to continue to bomb ships of the UK, ships of the United States, ships of Canada, ships of Israel. And then you look at Iran. Okay, and of course in Judea and Samaria, in Syria, in Iraq, you've got these terrorist entities. We've had some massive victories, some massive progression towards peace, but is military gonna solve it all? Do we need to do more militarily? You look at Iran, there was in April, the sky was filled with missiles to destroy, to obliterate us. Shockingly, we survived. Then you have in October 1st, 2024, sky filled with missiles, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drones, predator drones. I mean, they shot their arsenal pretty much at us. We survived. There was actually only one person that died in that one, and it was a 7-year-old Bedouin girl. It was the first one. And then there was a Palestinian man in Jericho, died in the second one. And then this one, the last one in June, last month, because now we're in July. It was ridiculous how much they shot at us. 550 missiles, 31 of them, I believe it was 31 of them actually impacted, which is such an I don't know, what is that, 90, almost 100%, but not 100%, of taking them out in the air with helicopters, by plane, by the Iron Beam, the Iron Dome, Arrow 3, these defense systems worked really, really good. But what happened is that we're seeing that it's not over. They haven't left, the Ayatollahs haven't left, or what is it called, leave or surrender or else. They haven't done that. So it looks like it's the or else. What does that mean? So the people here are in this limbo where we don't have missiles on us at this moment, but we're just trying to pick up the pieces right now, and we're feeling very much like what's going to happen with this big 7 front. And if you count media and the disinformation that they are pushing in the media, for every one, post for freedom, for the Judeo-Christian way of life, for democracy, for the life as we know it in the West, a Western way of life, you have 100 anti-freedom, anti-Israel posts, anti-freedom, anti-democracy, about 100 for every one post. So just it's a massive number of delusioned people who are not educated, don't want to be educated. Either they're deceived or they don't want to learn. And it's very sad. But that's what we're in, is in this kind of limbo moment, I'd say. And so people are feeling the weight of, we've lost friends or we've lost homes. About 3,500 people or 4,000 people are without homes. About 1,500 injured. So we're picking up the pieces. It could have been worse. I mean, imagine if it was 80% interception instead of 96% interception or
Yeah.
whatever, we would have no country left. It would be leveled.
Yeah, yeah, and that's always been the intent. I mean, people say that Iran has a peaceful nuclear program, or at least that's what the West wants to believe. But the reality is, if it was a peaceful program, why did they have such an arsenal of ballistic missiles that they fired at Israel and drones and everything else? It simply is not the reality on the ground. Well, let's drive it a little bit closer to home, because of course the major part of your operations in these past 635 days or so have been in Gaza. What is the situation on the ground there? Is there a famine? Is there a genocide?
Right. Well, one, I would say that there is a lack. We got to be honest. It's not life as normal. In any war zone, anytime you're in a war, it's not just, well, life is, sure, there are lots of food coming in. I mean, so much throughout, and there's different waves and different things, but there is just more than anywhere in the planet that I know of. I don't know any place, not Sudan famine, not, you name it, Yemen, nowhere do I see them receiving the amount of food as this little tiny place called Gaza. Astronomical amounts of food. Now, yes, the Hamas love to go and rob that and steal from their poor people and then resell it to them. Maybe they think it's an extra way to make money by stealing from their own people, shooting their own people. Then actually there's disinformation pushed out, even repeated by a very left-wing newspaper called Haaretz, which they're just looking for disinformation. They're looking for anything. Often the people there, I believe, are paid by Qatar. I don't know, but they definitely have some things in there that Israelis don't read. It's international. They're funded by internationals, and they got an agenda for sure. But my point is, there's a lot of disinformation. But no, there's definitely no famine. Be very clear. There's definitely no famine. There is a war zone, and it's not life as you know it, but there's crazy amounts of food, and there's no famine. Is there a genocide, you asked? Great question. No, there isn't. I've never heard of an army in the history of the world that goes and warns the people with leaflets, dropping leaflets, saying, please, guys, we know there's rocket launchers. We can see you shooting us from here. Hamas are here. We know they embed themselves with civilians, so please, civilians, please move from this area. We're asking you, please move kindly from this area to a safe zone. Okay, we don't want you to be hurt. And then loudspeakers on the drones, phone calls, SMSs, hacking the TVs. They have phones. They do have phones in Gaza, and they're getting these SMSs in Arabic and saying, please leave. And they get the message. They are very clear on getting the message, because you see they leave to the different areas. I remember United States, and there was people around the world, Canada, a bunch of places were repeating this, again, this disinformation, which was saying, if you go into Rafah, if you go into that, it'll be a bloodbath. Everyone's going to die. You're never going to get to them to move. Well, look what happened. They moved. We said, please leave, civilians, and look how, and they moved. It was not a bloodbath of civilians. It was not a genocide. It was not a massacre. And so I think that the proof is in the pudding that this is I've never heard of an army that does what we do, and I'm there seeing it in live, or again, going on 700 days before you blink. It'll be like 700 days.
Yeah. Yeah, well, just within that, I mean, one of the things that the media, of course, there's two aspects of this, and these are a little bit broader, but we had just yesterday, I think it was, that there was an airstrike in Gaza on 20 people in a cafe. The world media portrayed that as that was something that was actually criminal. Israel shouldn't have done that, and yet from my sources it says that was actually a meeting of those within Hamas that were meeting to be paid. Can you shed any light on that? Was that the reality? Obviously it's intelligence gathering and you hear different reports from that. And secondly, the other thing that's being portrayed globally is that the IDF is shooting at those that are coming to receive aid from the GHF, and we'll touch on that in a moment as well, because the GHF, there's been an announcement that 130 different aid agencies are saying the GHF needs to be disbanded, it's not doing its job, which of course we know there is a bigger story to that picture. So what happened on the beach at that beachside cafe, and what is going on surrounding the food sites where Gazans are coming to get aid?
Right, so I can't speak to the cafe, but I can speak to the track record that Israel has always had. We have this pamphlet given to us called The Purity of Arms, which arms are not the enemy. Arms protect. Without arms, without weapons, the good guys can't keep the bad guys at bay. There would be complete anarchy in every country if you didn't have police, if you didn't have banks would be robbed, if you didn't have security personnel. They are here to keep the world safe from the bad guys, which are called the terrorists. Now, we do have pinpoint information from spies, from satellites, from all kinds of different methods, all kinds. Sometimes people will help us to find out where there is a meeting of IRGC in Iran, for example, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, or Hamas in a cafe. Now, I wasn't in Gaza at that moment. I can't speak to exactly that, but I just know, based on our track record, based on how we've always operated, we don't just go and bomb cafes for no reason. We don't do that. But there's a specific reason why one would go and take out a leader once he finally comes up from a deep tunnel, from a place where he's moving constantly, and there's like, that's the moment to take out an arch terrorist, and so then a strike happens there. But no, it isn't our way to strike cafes. That's all I could say about that. But to your next point, which is you were saying about the aid distribution, there are videos of all kinds of Hamas shooting their own people in the head, broad daylight, not in the middle of the night, just boom, 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 shooting their own people at the aid distribution centers. This video exists. It's not AI, okay? Now, for them to try to twist and use disinformation, you know the difference between misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation was like a mistake. People shared something, we didn't know, but disinformation is purposefully using wrong information to try to twist people's opinion so they'll do something you want them to do. That's it's used in wars all over the world, and it's used a lot right here. Israel's way is to shoot people in aid centers. Has there been sometimes in the air? Yes, there has. I'm going to tell you. Even though I'm not an aid distribution worker, but I've been enough near. I don't go to the aid distribution things usually. I'm in tunnels. I'm a tunnel guy. I deal with the tunnel threat. These attack tunnels would come into Israel, and they'd come up with a squad of terrorists and just kidnap people. That's what they do. Proof is in the pudding. They kidnapped our people and massacred our people on October 7th, and would gladly do it again and plan to do it again, and to dig these tunnels. And it's kind of easy to dig, and they've really mastered the tunnel digging. I mean, they've made a metro down there. And so there are all kinds of different tunnels. Some are tunnels of weapons. Some are areas where they're making missiles. Some are attack tunnels. There's all kinds of varieties of types and sizes with different purposes. But my point is that's what I do, is I deal with the tunnel threat. I'm not dealing with the aid thing. However, my friend Richard Kemp, he had a video right there saying, your friend too, saying exactly the facts, and our track record shows. And if somehow if something were to happen where some crazy person lost his mind and a soldier and started disobeying all his orders and shooting someone at the aid, well, what would happen? He would be immediately arrested. He'd get his ranks removed. He'd be jailed. He'd be persecuted, and at the full extent of the law. You can't go against orders. Those are not our orders. You know whose orders they are? Let's just be very clear. Those are Hamas orders. That is Hamas's goal. Shoot their own people in aid areas if they're getting aid not from them. They want to be sure to rob their own people and sell to their own people and steal all the aid. So if they're taking aid, they get shot. That's proven on video. So I don't know where's all the outrage against Hamas for shooting their own people and then pushing this disinformation. I'm very sad Haaretz pushed that, propagated that. We got to be very careful for misinformation and disinformation. But guess what? There's an investigation underway. Why? Why is there an investigation underway in Israel? Why? Because it's not our way. It goes against the purity of arms that we all carry. We have what to do if we become a hostage. We have what to do if we have this booklet with you at all times. You're supposed to have it, and you're given to it from day one. It's not like go be a terrorist. So you can't. What drives me crazy is the conflating, the conflagration of a free democratic society established to protect our people, get the hostages, our fellow citizens home. It's our duty. It's our duty to go and rescue. It's the law of Israel says we got to protect our citizens. It's horrible what happened that we didn't protect them enough as it was on October 7th. Now it's time to rescue them. This should be Nobel Peace Prizes. I mean, not Nobel Peace Prizes. What is it called? The Purple Heart to these who go and risk their life that's an American Medal of Honor, Purple Heart, to go and risk their life to rescue their brothers and sisters. To conflate that honorable, righteous war of self-defense and defense of our borders with terrorists whose goal is to kill babies, women, children, men, everybody. So I don't like the equating that happens.
Yeah, no, you and me both. And I just to kind of reiterate for our listeners, you've got the tunnel network. We tend to think, it's a little tunnel, little train tunnel. This network of tunnels is the equivalence in size of the whole of the London Underground system, a large portion of the New York Metro. This is a major engineering undertaking, and Chaim has seen these day in, day out, and seen the kind of expression of what they sought to build down instead of up. You know, it's beyond comprehension if you haven't been there, and we're grateful to have Chaim Malespin with us on the Israel Matters show. I'm Stephen Briggs, and if you haven't subscribed, I'd encourage you to go and click that subscribe button and that like button for being kept up to date with all that's going on with Israel as a whole across the nation and the wider implications across the Middle East. Now, I want to turn our attention a little bit to what is a friend of mine put out that took place with Iran just a few days ago, and he likened it to the Top Gun Maverick story, the impossible mission of taking out a site that needed to be taken out. And where are we at with the Iranian threat? Do you think Israel and the USA have dealt effectively? What is there still left to be done with regard to the Iranian nuclear weapons program?
Well, I think just like we were saying, like I was saying earlier, is things just aren't as simple as we want them to be. We want it to be the lights on, the lights off. Oh, do we win? Do we not win? People say, well, let's have a regime change. Let's have a regime change. That's very all nice and good. And there actually are factions in Iran, not just these women who are getting killed and acid poured on their face and shot in the streets because a little strand of hair is not covered in the burqa, in the niqab, in the hijab. And so because of that, you have these morality police killing, and these women are standing up, letting their hair down and getting jailed and killed and tortured, actually, as well, which is horrible. And there's actually people that are pro the factions of Iran, the proxies of this arch terrorist, we call it the head of the octopus. Like, people forget for a second that the Houthis, when they say death to America, death to Israel on their flag, you know, their flag says death to America, death to Israel on their flag, on this terrorist flag. They're not the Yemenite people, again. They're not the Yemenite government. They are a terrorist group occupying Yemen. Yemen has great food, great dance, great restaurants. Yemen is a great place. But they're trashing it. They're trashing it. They're making it a poor, dark, evil society. But my point is, where did they get this death to America, death to Israel? Guess where? From their bosses, the arch terrorists, who say that in every parliament meeting, death to Israel, the little Satan, death to America, the big Satan, death to the UK. People are chanting this as well. Okay, so my point is also the Hezbollah, also the Hamas. So you have here a very complicated situation, though. There are factions which would go against the Ayatollahs. There are. But they're not united. It's important to remember they're not all united. They're not all like, if you've seen, I think it's Rambo 3. There's a movie called Rambo 3, I believe it is. And Rambo, he's this big soldier, American soldier, muscles, and a bandana, and he's going and training the Taliban in Afghanistan. He's training them because that was the American. It is the Western mistake. Hey, Israel's made the mistake too. I'm not speaking. We've even helped Hamas at the very beginning, hoping that they would be our friends. And here you go. You're ruling this area. Rule it well. Steward it well. Mwah, we bless you. Here's some water. Here's some jobs. Here's electricity. Egypt's not doing that for them, but we are, because we're blessing them. But you know, it doesn't work. You can't give these jihadists weapons and trust and money. You can't do that. We better have learned this. America in Rambo 3, they're training the Taliban. What does the Taliban do? Kill everybody. Finally, America left under Biden. But my point is you look in Iran, there are some factions, but they all want to be warlords like Muhammad. They want to be a warlord. They're not together. They're not united. And you have Persians, you have the ancient people, you have Azeris, Kurds, those Kurds, you got the Balochis or the Balochs, Arabs. You have also in their religious factions. You even have Zoroastrians, the fire worshippers of ancient time. They still exist. You have Sufis, even the Shiites, of course, the majority are Shiites, but there's 9 are Shiites, there's 12 are Shiites. You even have Sunnis, the enemies. They're at odds. And even Baha'i, and of course, Christians. Now, I know the West talks about Christians in Iran quite a bit, but there's a very small amount. It might be the fastest growing church in the world, but it's still very small. Some say under 1%, 0.6%. So my point is, even if you had Reza Pahlavi, he's the crown prince, the son of the Shah, who ruled there before the Ayatollah in 1979, took over, tricked the people, tore the Constitution up on live TV and said, forget all this thing about free society I was promising you like the Shah gave you. We're going jihad all the way. And if you don't like it, you can die. And so that is what he did in 1979. And then they started trying to export the revolution. That was their plan. And that's why they got all these proxies, even in the West. There even are other proxies. I don't want to scare you right now. But my point is, Is the Shah strong enough? I'm calling him the Shah, the son of the Shah, Reza Pahlavi, the crown prince exiled. Is he strong enough? Is he a uniting factor strong enough to take over? My point to answer your question is, it's a mess. We can't just say, we bomb their thing. Won't they just they could get a nuke right now from Pakistan. If Pakistan would give them a nuke, Russia could land in there and give them a whole ton of nukes. Ready-made. They don't have to enrich. Ready-made, ready to go. China offered to go and replenish all their ballistic missiles, the ballistic missiles they shot at us, replenish all their stock in a few days. That is horrible. They need a change of heart. They need a change of goals, life goals. They need to come to a place where they say, what we're doing is not the right way to live. The Ayatollahs need to leave, surrender, or else. And once you get to a place where you have a united front, you don't need to have America so divided about, is it right to stop a nuclear threat? They should praise that Tom Cruise type, Maverick type mission where these brave pilots in 7 B-2 Spirit bombers took out a threat to America. And so they need to be united, and also with the UK, and also with the whole world. We just need to be united in saying we believe in the West. Hey, you guys want to do whatever you want to do? We respect the values of the Judeo-Christian, the Bible, the values of the Bible. And nobody's going to take that from us. And we're going to stand up for what we believe in. We're not going to let terror. I just wanted to say this: freedom is not free. Peace is not. I think we say this a lot, but I don't think until you're a soldier and you have to have your rod and your staff, I don't think that people understand what it is to be a shepherd, to be a good shepherd. It's not just handed to you. Nobody's going to just hand you peace. No, you have to stand up for what you believe in. You have to say, this is my red lines. I will not let you nuke me. That's a red line for me. And you have to do that, and not just our forefathers. We have to all stand up and say, this is our red lines. This is who we are. This is what we believe in. Or else it's going to be too late.
Yeah, well said. And I think that there's a battle happening around the world with regard to some outspoken individuals in the US and elsewhere voicing things that actually, I think, need to be addressed increasingly in the public space. And I've got a clip from Candace Owens, who is being very, very vocal, engaging with Piers Morgan in this instance. I want to share, and I just want to hear your thoughts on it, because it really is quite important for us to kind of wrestle with these things that are being said, that are actually being said in a lot of times out of ignorance, out of a lack of historical understanding. And the Bible helps us to understand that with regard to Iran and other areas. Let's play this and then just hear what Chaim's comments and thoughts are on this.
When the leader of Iran says death to America, why doesn't that concern you?
That's a chant. And by the way, I want to be very clear. Why are they chanting death to America? Why are they chanting that? That's kind of a random thing. Like, I know,
because they want Americans dead.
But why are they specifically chanting as opposed to saying, I don't know, death to China or death to Russia? What is it specifically about America? Well, they say
death to America, death to Israel, death to the United Kingdom, actually.
Oh, okay.
Death to pretty much anyone that wants to stand up to them.
Could have had something to do with our actions in the Middle East, is why I'm saying that we need a change in foreign policy. It maybe has something to do with just like killing 1 million Iraqi civilians, okay, because Bibi Netanyahu got on a congressional stage and said there are weapons of mass destruction, and we took that to the bank, and there actually were no weapons of mass destruction, so we just killed 1 million. It could have something, I could be crazy, it could have something to do with our actions in the Middle East. The fact that we have 2,000 troops stationed in Syria right now under the guise of saying that we're fighting ISIS, while at the same time we know that Bibi Netanyahu funded the al-Qaeda adjacent front because he wanted to overthrow Syria, and they again expand their borders, immediately take on territory, and sell us absolute nonsense. We're talking about funding Hamas. Bibi Netanyahu funded Hamas. There is footage of Bibi Netanyahu saying this stuff on camera. So it's just so ridiculous to me to pretend that they're in some predicament, that they may be eradicated soon, which is why they have to keep funding all of these terrorist groups and then pretending that they're victims of terror, when in fact they are people that are imparting it worldwide. You know, I just think that, like I said, Generation 9/11 has grown up, and I think that our eyes are very clear here, and we recognize that our relationship with Israel has become increasingly problematic, and it always was problematic.
So there's Candace Owens there talking to Piers Morgan. Can you give us your comments on that, Chaim? How do you react to that? Firstly, Candace Owens, this public speaker, a celebrity, and obviously Piers Morgan, his position as well. What's your takeaway from it, and how would you address some of the things that she raises?
I think that, first of all, I believe that I have actually a fear of God on me for her she says she's a Christian. I guess she's a Catholic Christian. I'm not sure what kind of Christian she is, but the fact that she rose to prominence when she spoke against some of the victimhood, some of the BLM lies that were being pushed, the destroy America, destroy the nuclear family. She would expose that as an African American, and I loved listening to her. I think
Me too. She was great. Yeah, in that period.
Yeah, and I just feel so sad to see her spiral into not only conspiracy, but to really go against really a covenantal friendship and relationship the United States and Israel have had, and start to twist things and really to actually bring up things that every time she opens her mouth lately, it just shows how little she knows. Before, she was saying how much she knew about we can't play the victim card. We need to, there's no rights that an African American doesn't have that a white American has. And we can stand up, we can rise up, and she was so encouraging. But what she's saying right now is extremely dangerous. I think it's almost more dangerous than a ballistic missile, because people aren't prepared with an Arrow 3 air defense. We don't have the air defense ready because, I mean, as a Christian, you could talk on a biblical level. You could say, the Bible is extremely clear, because I've seen other things where she's undermining the very covenant of God to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. You see that with Balaam, how Balaam is in the, had this, there was a Moabite king which wanted him to curse Israel. And he's like, hey, I'll give you a house full of gold if you'll just curse Israel. He wants to, but God is not letting him. The story, long story short, is he says, look, I can't. How can I curse who God has blessed? God has blessed Israel. And in the end of the story there, those who bless Israel will be blessed. But you have also Tucker Carlson also, and he's saying, was that just about Abraham? And Abraham was the father of the Arabs through Ishmael too, and the father of the Jews through Isaac. And it clearly shows how this covenant of God, this covenant goes through Isaac. My point, though, is you could look at it on a spiritual level, but you could just look at it on, is it wrong to have allies? Is it wrong for America to have allies? What is NATO? What is the whole reason to free people stand together? Okay, now the fact is, she just is undermining the fact that Israel is fighting to defend her from nuclear winter, from apocalypse. And I think the main premise, I just want to get to the main premise that I see that she brings up again and again, which is so wrong. And it just shows how little she knows about the history of the area, how little she knows about the ideological dynamics of the region, how little she knows about the spiritual dynamics. She just is completely ignorant. And I feel bad for her, frankly. I just feel bad for a woman who's making a fool out of herself, really. I'll tell you just one example. For example, when you think that everything that is done, every terrorist attack is because you, the West, are so bad, because it's like a self-hating, because you, the West, must have done something, because I guess, this is her premise, I guess they just want the American dream, because the Americans want the American dream. Americans like, I want to live a nice life. I want to live in peace. I just want to build my empire, make money, and have vacations, and the American dream. Okay? That is not the jihadi dream. She thinks that they want the American dream. An American, if you're taking away his ability to pursue the American dream, he'll get mad. He might fight you, But jihadi dream is not the same as the American dream. You can't conflate them. No, Candace, if she was listening, I'd say, Candace, you do not know what the jihadi dream is? You have the arch jihadists in Iran. Their dream is to death to America. They're saying it. And they're not saying it because you did something to them, not because of Iraq. By the way, don't be too dumb, Candace. They're Sunnis in Iraq and they're Shiites in Iran. Those are at odds. They fight. They had a huge Iran-Iraq war. Okay, they're not together. I just talked earlier in this podcast about how they're not all united here. Okay, there's quite a big battle between Saudi Arabia, which is the head of the Sunnis, you might call it, and Iran, the head of the Shiites. They have different worldviews even. Their one is an apocalypse where a great war is going to destroy all the infidels. And whereas you have the Sunnis are able to say, well, let's focus on the family. We want our families to be strong. In a way, they're more American dream. They're able to be more American dream-esque. They're still not, but they're able to lay down the violent jihadism to pursue wealth. You see that with the United Arab Emirates and Dubai and Abu Dhabi and so on. Okay, but back to, hey, Candace, listen, the jihadi dream is not the American dream. Their goal and and they're proxies. Look at when we left Gaza. Literally, they push that same lie that she just said on us. Israel must have done something so bad to the Palestinians, and that's why they did the massacre on you guys. I mean, hey, guess what? If an American was hurt in a certain level, he would go back and fight back. They must be just fighting back. No, Candace, that's a total lie. We left. I know you know this, but I just got to say it again and again. I went in the army when people were being pulled, Jewish people were being, from 21 villages, mini cities, were being pulled out by their hair, pulled out of Gaza and saying, this is completely and entirely yours. It's like a Palestinian state. You live there. You want to come in and work? Well, we're going to check you for bombs. We don't want to blow up here. And come on in, work. Are they working in Egypt? Are they? Egypt's blocking them, but come, we'll give you electricity, we'll give you water. I've been in the houses. They're fancier than any house I've grown up in Israel. Fancy houses that I've grown up in, these small apartments and, small houses. And you have these gorgeous houses, not all of them. There's wealthy, there's poor. Fancy cars, they have a gold district. They had, okay? But they threw it all away for the jihadi dream. Okay, same thing what Hezbollah is doing. These are terrorists. Okay, not all the people of Gaza are terrorists, but the jihadi dream fuels terrorism, and it can happen anywhere. It can happen in your town. It could happen in your town. It could happen in your town. It could happen in any country in the world. And it really comes down to what are the fathers and the mothers teaching the children? Are they teaching what they taught? What you can hear the parents on the phone. You've heard the phone call, which I've killed 10 Jews. I'm so happy. The parents are, whoa, praise Allah. Great. Good for you. You've done the dream. I've killed them with my bare hands. Great. Does that sound like the American dream? No, that's the jihadi dream. It's different. And that isn't because those 10 people did anything to him. It's the goal. And I just say it's a glaring lack of understanding. And I just say on all levels, Candace needs to change her ways spiritually. She's attacking the very covenants of God, which are true until 1992 when the Oslo Accord happens. No, Candace. It says, as long as the sun is in the sky, as long as the moon is in the sky, Israel will remain a nation before me. And yes, we were around before the Khazari, what is that called? The Elders of Zion lies and the Khazarian lies that were a bunch of just Europeans. Jews have all kinds of different colors. And guess what? There's a thing called DNA. What is DNA? It says where you're from. We're from Israel. It says that's what DNA does. It shows where you're from.
Yeah. It's so important for us to understand and to wrestle with this and be aware of it and be informed and understand the outworking of what is taking place. I say it quite often, Israel is fighting for the freedom of the West, just the West doesn't realize it. There is a different mindset between East and West it's hard for Westerners to reconcile that somebody doesn't think like them. And because of that, we approach it from our mindset of where we are positioned or the way in which we've grown up. We find it hard to reconcile this, but it is a reality. There are people that have a completely 7th century backwards worldview of barbarism that they want to bring back into the 21st century, and it's crazy. And yet on the flip side, and I'm aware we're almost out of time with you Chaim, we've taken a few minutes more than I said I'd take of yours, but I want to bring people's attention to something that is quite simply remarkable. I would say it's miraculous in what is taking place. Since the war, since October 7th, 2023, 43,000 people have made Aliyah. Now, for those that don't know, listening to this podcast perhaps for the first time, the word Aliyah is a Hebrew word for to go up. It's to return. It's the collective word that's used for Jews that come back to Israel, returning to their ancestral homeland. And 43,000 people around the world have chosen to do that, even during wartime. You work when you're not within the Yahalom unit in the IDF. You work for the Aliyah and with the Aliyah Return Center. What accounts for this upswing of Aliyah, of people returning back to their ancient homeland?
Well, I always say there's Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 14 through 16, it talks about this time where the Jewish people will say, it's not as the Lord lives that just brought us out of Egypt, Passover story and the water parting. And you got Charlton Heston up there in the movie The Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
Getting the 10 Commandments on this Aliyah journey, this journey to the Promised Land. But it's not just as the Lord lives, it takes us out of Egypt, prophet Jeremiah says, but as the Lord lives, it took us out of all the nations where we've been scattered. This great diaspora was a great time of bringing the values of the Bible to nations all over the world, But God's like, that time is ending. It's kind of scary for the nations, actually, of the earth, knowing that those who brought the Bible, those who brought it, whether it's New Testament or Old Testament, it was brought by Jews all over. Those Jews are now being called back to the homeland. And there's a feeling, I think of this analogy, you might remember this. I say this a lot. It's like turtles that were hatched at this beach. And suddenly they go and they hatch out of their egg and they swim the 7 seas and they swim and they grow. There comes a moment where the homing device, no pun intended, kicks in their instinct and they are swim all the way back to that beach where they were hatched at. Why do they do that? What's the deal with that? It's like salmon. Salmon, the same thing. I'm like, hey, salmon, you don't want to swim up that stream. There's bears up there. It can get dangerous. And when you get there, you might just have a better time in the warm water here. You're safe. You're pretty big now. A big salmon. I don't talk to salmon, but I'm just saying, hey, salmon, you might not want to make that journey. But you know what? I got to do it. I got to go back to the homeland. My little instincts have kicked in. Okay, salmon don't talk to me either. But I'm just saying, it's kind of funny that is what happens with Jewish people. It's beyond our understanding, but God said it would happen. It's miraculous that even in times of war. Now, also it talks about fishers and hunters there in Jeremiah 16. And it talks about, I'm going to send forth many fishermen. They will fish them. And I like to think of the Aliyah Return Center. Yes, I'm the chairman of the board, executive director of this charity. We have a campaign out right now to help also people have become, is it 3,500 or 4,000 people are homeless? I mean, maybe it's just the windows and anything made out of drywall and every cup in your cupboard shattered from the blast. That's what it happens. Even if it's not your whole house blown up and destroyed, some houses are really, one blast, destroyed in some way or another, in some level, 61 buildings. And I walked through the rubble. That's one. So again, the miracle is truly a miracle that we had how many, 31 landed, and out of 31 landing, only 28 died in this. In June. It's just really a miracle. But my point is that we are there helping them. These people, we'd love if people want to help to share that awareness. You just click on aliyahreturncenter.com and you'll see a little pop-up, which is like emergency aid. Let's help them. But my point is, it could be those hunters. I will send the fishers, but I'll also send the hunters. Hunters, maybe they're good, maybe they're not good. Maybe they're like anti-Semitism. Maybe at first you're like, come to the Aliyah Return Center. We'll give you free stay. We'll give you building, shelter, job training. It's like a fisherman. Then you have anti-Semitism saying, death to the IDF. And one of the most moral, soldiers, armies in the whole entire world, out of all the history of every war that's ever been, the most precision amount. Is war horrible? And it's sad that innocents do die, and it's not our intention. Everyone doesn't want to see any civilians die in any war ever. So don't wage war. Don't do a war. Then you're safe from the consequences of war. But back to what I'm saying is that it could be that also anti-Semitism. A lot of those came from France, in areas where they feel an increase. I mean, some of the rabbis are saying you might want to consider leaving with your things or leaving later without your things, or never.
And you mentioned Bob Villan's statement there, death to the IDF, that was part of Glastonbury. We touched on that in the earlier part of the show. This slogan that really needs to be pronounced by the nations is life to the IDF, because they are seeking to preserve the Western Judeo-Christian foundation. And for those that want to find out more about the Aliyah Return Center, check out the description in the podcast and YouTube, and you'll be able to click right through to find out more about what Chaim and his team are doing in Galilee, a beautiful part of Israel. I've got one final question I want to kind of tap into, and it's two-pronged. The first part is, what are Israel's priorities now, and what is the way forward regarding the hostages and with Gaza? And then secondly, I want to turn it to a spiritual aspect to say, well, what is it that God has been teaching you lately, Chaim? And is there any scripture that you've been holding on to in the midst of all that's been going on?
Well, amazing. Yeah, I'm really honored to be with you. I really think you do a great job, and you're such a good friend, and I just thank you for all you do as well. Just want to throw that out there. What are the priorities? Rescuing the hostages. Elite units have been working around the clock, even to rescue the bodies, even the dead bodies, to give them a decent burial. That is such honor for life that even the families want to just give them the decency of burial. And they're actually part of the negotiations, even for a body. But we are trying our best to rescue all hostages, living or dead. I want to just say this really clear. Terrorism can no longer be allowed to dictate peace. That needs to be so clear. Terrorism cannot dictate peace. That's not how it works. I know that people are thinking that. Well, what if you just give them this? Candace Owens. Well, what if you just do this? What if you remove all troops from Syria? And then it'll be peace. The more you appease, the more you actually embolden terrorists. You can't, people that are going to do murder. And I'll say this, and I'm going to answer your question, but what if there was a terror cell where you live? Whoever's listening to this, wherever you live, imagine there was a terror cell that their whole plan is either drive into a crowd and kill as many people as possible, or just shoot into a crowd, where it's no longer just flags, green and black and red flags, but it's guns, and it's actual terror. We want to blow up a movie theater. Okay, what if there was a terror group like that? Wouldn't you be glad that your security forces would try to find out about that before that happens and shut it down? I guarantee you this. You can disagree if you want. There's going to be people that are going to say, how dare the police go and rush into a house and take out this terror cell and throw them in the jail? How dare they do that? Down with the London police. Down with the American police. If they say that to us, they're going to say it to you too. If they say that to people, it's just, that's the type of people who don't get why they're there. What do they think? We're all citizens of the world and we can all just open all our borders and there's going to be no consequences to that? There are bad people in this world. I know that it's hard for them to imagine. There are bad people in this world, okay? So number 2 would be dismantle the Hamas infrastructure. We're doing our best to dismantle really any infrastructure that the Hamas could use as an advantage to shoot patrols going through, to shoot our troops, to shoot Israel. We are dismantling a crazy amount of buildings. I'm just going to be crazy amount. I mean, place is like leveled. That Gaza is like leveled. And we're making sure that we can't always get to them either, but we're making sure that any place they could have used or did use or planted a bomb inside, or areas where they have stored or could store, or where snipers have used, or where snipers even could use near our patrol, we're leveling really a lot of buildings. And I'm glad for that. Then they can't use them as a strategic advantage against us. And and definitely not let them use humanitarian aid as a weapon. They can't weaponize aid. Enough of that. We've seen what that is. I mean, enough of that. There should be areas where they're not around, which is what Israel thought would be a place where people can come in and take it without getting robbed on their way home. Really, you just need Hamas out. There's no other way to get around this. You need Hamas out entirely. They need to leave. They need to no longer be able to, in any capacity, rule. They need to, it's really simple, leave. They can leave. We'll find a place. I'm sure there could be someone find a place. Leave, surrender, or else. Leave, surrender, or else. I keep it really simple. And really, Trump's the only one, President Trump of the United States, is the only one who's given any plan that makes any sense, which is move everybody to an area and literally just bulldoze all the rubble, and then bring a lot of investments, maybe through MBS, Mohammed bin Salman from Saudi, have him come in. And in fact, there's a video of me a year and a half ago or so where I'm standing in Gaza at the beach, and I said, guys, it's such a shame. I got a lot of hate for this, actually, from all kinds of people from all across the board. Just way before Trump said anything, before he was elected. And there I'm saying, I want Mohammed bin MBS to channel also donations and also investments into Gaza. I want you, hey, you can help. We don't have to do everything. And hey, if a Jewish person wants to invest in Gaza, he can do it. If an American wants to invest in Gaza, he can do it. Just like the way Emirates are, and anyone who's peace-loving. And we're going to have to put together a patrol. I'm sure Israel would love to help. I'm sure America would love to help. I'm sure. And make sure terrorism's not allowed. Remove everybody. And then build up and bring back whoever is going to, and say, hey, we're watching you. Don't.
Yeah.
And no more tunnel digging. And I'm not saying that people should actually go and report, but this is something that they are thinking of in Saudi Arabia. Hey, they're teaching jihadist teaching in this mosque. We don't teach that. There needs to be a real change of heart, and I think there's a lot of Arabic-speaking Christians that might want to move to Gaza and really be able to share a different way of life. But that's what I think should happen, and happen quick, and not to to appease. Not to say, let's just end this on a little, we don't know really what the future is going to be. No, see something through. We've been here going on 700 days before you blink. Let's finish this right and really free Gaza from Hamas, for them too. Not just for our security, for them too. plenty of them you can see don't want to be governed by dictatorship, terrorists, a dictator.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it could have been the Singapore of the Middle East, Singapore of Europe, really, in the Middle East. That's what it boils down to. Instead of building down, they could have built up, and it could have been a very, very prosperous area. They were handed businesses, and they just chose to destroy them. They were handed homes, and they chose to destroy them. And this was the establishment that was there in Gaza. Just as we wrap, and thank you, I'm aware of taking you more time, and please do stick around. We are going to be looking at the Hebrew word for foundation as we end the podcast. But I do have one question that I want to finish with Chaim, and it's really... what scripture have you been holding on to in all that you've been going through? Is there one scripture that you could sum up how you are feeling? I mean, you maintain a joy that a lot of people in Israel aren't. And you have a vitality and a life with you. You have faced things and seen things that nobody should have to see in their lifetime. And yet, after being in a position of a battle-ready position throughout that time, you still have a humor, you have a joy, you have a life to you. Why? For those that are listening, why is that there?
I would say really it is something supernatural. It's not natural. I could never take the credit like, well, that's just how my cells multiplied in my body when I was growing into a full-grown human. And that's just, that is what I know. It's supernatural. You see dead people, you see, on October 7th especially. But, I would say the more that I strengthen myself in the promises of God, and I sometimes say the opposite thing to get people to get it. Like, I guess his promises over Israel are true until 1992, and there's nothing you can do. Oh, wait, no, that's they're true. It says, Jeremiah 31:35, thus says the Lord who gives the sun for light by day. If those ordinances, the sun and the moon, depart from me, then the seed of Israel, the nation of Israel, will cease from being a nation before me forever. Forever. As long as the sun's in the sky, and we know heaven, what does heaven look like? Okay, it's not just a cloud and a harp. There's harps, but do you notice that wall there? It's a big kind of wall. Yeah, not a Trump wall. That's the walls of Jerusalem. Okay, those tribes' names, those are the tribes of Israel. They're literally etched. This is New Testament. This is the Galileans. I'm a Galilean, Sea of Galilee. You see their names there: Peter, James, John. Kepha, Zvulun in Hebrew. And, so we know we got to make, people got to make their peace with Jerusalem. They've got to not, or else they're going to be on the wrong side of Armageddon. That's not Jewish blood in that up to the bridles there in the Megiddo Valley in the Galilee. That's not Jewish people dead there. That's people who got deceived, really badly deceived, where they're going to come against unwalled Israel in peace, and they're going to attack us, and an angel is going to take them out, or multiple angels going to take them out. They don't want to be on the wrong side of forget asking when's Armageddon. How about, how can I not be on the wrong side of Armageddon? How can I stand on the right side with Israel? That's the only question they need to be asking, not when's Armageddon.
Yeah.
How do I not be on the wrong side of Armageddon? Okay, so I just want to say is that when I think of, the history is a very bloody place. Edmund Burke said, history is a bloody mess. I don't remember exactly what the quote was. You can maybe Google it. History is a bloody mess, but not just because of tyrants, I would add terrorists, but because good men remain silent. You also have, is it Dietrich Bonhoeffer or whatever, or someone had this, all you need for evil to succeed is for good people to remain silent. So because good people were quiet, and good girls and guys were quiet, that's why evil times happen. That's why evil is allowed to. People need to come together right now. And you asked, why am I encouraged? I think of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 33:29. Happy are you, O Israel. Happy are you, O Israel. I just love that. Happy are you, O Israel. Deuteronomy, I just read it real quick. I have a Bible here. Deuteronomy 33.
Sure.
You probably want English, not Hebrew. Hebrew is beautiful, but I'll do English. Happy are you, O Israel, who is like you, a people saved by Adonai, the shield of your help, the sword of your majesty. Your enemies will submit to you, and you will tread down their high places. These are kind of like battle scriptures, not the average scripture that's read in your average service. Maybe they're kind of skipped over sometimes, but it's talking about Israel, and yes, not some other Israel. It's talking about this people, this land. Okay, Candace Owens, if it's not this people and this land that this is talking about, Well, maybe Iran is shooting the wrong people. Iran, you're ballistic bombing the wrong people. These are just fake Jews. It's all fake Jews here. You know what? Hitler, you killed the wrong Jews. The Jews that are here that came from the Holocaust, you killed the wrong people. These are just some European Khazar weird, the wrong ones. No, these are the same exact ones as the Bible, and we know what happens. It says Israel will dwell in safety, and the heavens will drop dew. So I encourage myself in God, like King David did, and I think it's really helped me. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's Chaim Malespin. He's AliyahReturnCenter.com. Check him out. There's more information in the description below. Thanks, Chaim, for joining us. We'll have to have you back. God bless you and sleep well. It's late there, so we'll speak to you soon. Thank you. And so we come, so I apologize for being a little bit longer, but it's important for us to realize just what is going on. I want to finish our time together with a study on the word foundation. Foundation, yesod in Hebrew. Before purchasing a home, a thorough survey is undertaken where an inspector looks for signs of damage to the foundations. These sometimes show up as uneven floors or expanding cracks, which will be dangerous if left untreated. Ignoring cracks in the foundation would be extremely irresponsible. And Psalm 11 verse 3 says, when the foundations are being destroyed, what can the righteous do? Or in some translations, it can actually be, what did the righteous do? Sometimes it feels like the fabric of our society, as Chaim has alluded to, the foundations of our civilization is shifting at an alarming rate. Even in the church, so much of what we used to take for granted as unquestionable truths are now being eroded and overturned. Redefinitions, linguistic theft, deconstructions, reconstructions, accusations, fear, divisions in the church and throughout wider society multiply and fester at an exponential rate. The adaptations that are being suggested and implemented to Christian beliefs can feel like an inexperienced showman is attempting the trick where the tablecloth is whipped out from under a set table, hoping to reveal that everything stayed neatly put, except maybe it has gone terribly wrong. And the dishes and the silverware are crashing haphazardly to the floor, removing the foundation. In that instance, has disastrous results. A foundation is a beginning place, an essential starting point. It bears up everything that comes after it. The foundation is insufficient to hold the weight of what is built upon it. Then the whole structure cracks and crumbles. The primary word in Hebrew for foundation or base in Hebrew is yesod. And that is something that is very, very profound. It comes from the root verb yasad, meaning to fix, establish, firmly place, and lay a foundation. What or who is the foundation upon which we are establishing our life, our work, our marriage, our family, even our ministry, our society, our church, our understanding of Israel, and our worldview? As Christians, you and I know that Jesus himself desires to be that firm foundation, that worthy cornerstone, that rock, the builder, the master craftsman. All of the options in world history, of all of them that are there and available for us, the Messiah chose to arrive in Israel exactly when he did. And the whole world recognizes his coming as a watershed moment. We define history, BCE and AD. They've modernized it to before Common Era and Common Era, but BC AD, before Christ, and Anno Domini, after he has come. He carried out his ministry in the context of Jewish culture, fulfilling the Jewish messianic prophecies. He spoke primarily as a Jew to Jews and into the issues of those days in their language. And at the same time, amazingly, his ministry had universal significance that supersedes all languages, culture, and time periods. It is still relevant today. There are numerous times in history where parts of the church have gotten off track, such as through faulty theology that misrepresents God and his word. For example, replacement theology, which is a battleground raging on social media at present, and perhaps we'll come back and talk in greater detail about that, which says that God has finished with Israel and replaced her with the church. Many have disconnected Jesus from his Jewish heritage and thereby forgotten or erased the roots of the early church and our faith. In various ways and in various seasons, we have become prideful, selfish, unloving, apathetic, judgmental, lazy, forgetful, carnal, or even misguided. And we can look at that in 2 Timothy 3, verse 1 to 5. Do we also have an understanding that is accurate of the implications of Romans chapter 9 through 11, of what it means to be grafted by faith into the olive tree of faith? Take some time to read through that immensely important passage for yourself. Ideally, read through the whole book of Romans for greater context. Romans 9 through 11 is certainly a passage we will return to again over the coming weeks on Israel Matters, because it is key to a biblical world view. It is key for us to have this understanding of what is taking place and the relationship between Israel and Christians globally. Ultimately, the point of all this, the point of this all as believers, the church, our lives, our work, our ministry, is to glorify the Messiah and build his kingdom. It's not about maintaining dusty traditions, making a name for ourselves, or having correct theology just for the sake of it. It's the preparation of the bride of Jesus. He's our foundation, our model. We are his children, his ambassadors, his servants. And shouldn't he get the ultimate say in what we are doing, in how and why, what is built in his name? We are his body, and it is his choice where and what is the foundation of the building and the building itself. 1 Corinthians 3, verse 9 through 13 says, we are co-workers in God's service. You are God's field, God's building. And by the grace of God has given me, I laid a foundation as a wise builder. Someone else is building on it. But each one should build with care, for no one can lay any foundation other than the one already laid, which is Jesus Christ. If anyone builds on this foundation using gold or silver or costly stones, wood, hay, or straw, their work will be shown for what it is, because the day will bring it to light. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each person's work. If what has been built survives, the builder will receive a reward. And if it's burned up, the builder will suffer loss, but will be saved, even though only as one escaping through the flames. Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in your midst? This, my friends, is a sobering passage. The answer for us as believers, individually and collectively, is to go back and check out the foundation. Let the Holy Spirit be like the surveyor who guides us into all truth. Psalm 139, verse 23 and 24 talks about that. And then 1 Peter 2, 4 to 7, we have coming to him as a living stone, rejected indeed by men, but chosen by God and precious. You also as living stones, being built up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. Therefore, it is also contained in the scripture, behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he who believes on him will by no means be put to shame. Therefore, to you who believe, he is precious. Are we built of and on the solid rock of Messiah? As Christians, we must be open to the conviction of the Holy Spirit about where we as the church have gotten off track, lost the course, or built other foundations other than Jesus himself. We can simply come to him in humility and confess, repent, renounce, and turn back to God. Isaiah 58, verse 12, talks about people who will raise back up the age-old foundations. And the very fact that it is there tells us that there's going to come a time when we need to take hold of those age-old foundations and build them up again. It says, your people will rebuild the ancient ruins and will raise up the age-old foundations. You will be called repairer of broken walls, restorer of streets with dwellings. Let's be available to God to be those people. There is hope for our generation. There is forgiveness. There is healing. There is realignment, and restoration is possible. This is the powerful ministry of our Lord and Savior. Having been built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Messiah Jesus himself being the chief cornerstone, in whom the whole building being fitted together is growing into a holy temple in the Lord, in whom you also are being built together into a dwelling of God in the Spirit. I'm Stephen Briggs, and this is Israel Matters. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so more people can be impacted by biblical truth. Shalom, and God bless you.